Ukraine has confirmed F-16s are flying in Ukraine, but just what is that going to do for the front line, and how can Ukraine get the most out of this aircraft? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. Okay, so this has been confirmed by a number of sources, including, of course, Zelensky himself, who has said that the Ukraine is finally deploying U.S.-made F-16 fighter jets donated by a variety of countries, flown by Ukrainian pilots who have been trained up over the last year or so. And this, of course, makes sense. Likely what really happened is they trained F-16 pilots in Ukraine who were already experienced fighter pilots, and then they went on to train the actual aviators. This is pretty common. Again, I'm speculating here, but probably to preserve keep some people who know how to fly these things on the ground. Ukraine, of course, has long lobbied for these, but is it really a huge game changer? Now, as they point out, Ukraine has relied on its fleet of Soviet-era MiGs that are outgunned and outnumbered by Russia's advanced and more numerous air fleet. But, of course, it's not aircraft that take out aircraft. It's air defenses. And that has been the primary thing that has kept the Russian Air Force off of the battlefield, or at least limited in their battlefield role. And that ultimately is why is part and parcel to the Ukrainian strategy for their own F-16s. Now, Russian mill bloggers are downplaying the potential battlefield effects of these F-16s, right? And this is sort of embarrassing because the Russian information space, the Kremlin, is trying to say that the delivery of these F-16s is an uncrossable red line. And unfortunately, this is a classic study in just Russia, kind of the boy who cried wolf, right? If everything is a red line, literally nothing is a red line. Every piece of aid that the U.S. has provided to Russia, every policy change, Russia's claimed that this is an uncrossable red line. But in fact, the Western countries have faced little consequences from Russia, again, because it's pretty clear these aren't actually red lines, right? The war remains contained without significant escalation. And of course, Russian mill bloggers say Western media in Ukraine are overhyping the arrival of F-16s to distract from battlefield failures. Many mill bloggers saying that Russian forces will target and destroy the aircraft, and Russian information-based commentators claim that delivery of Western weapons to Ukraine, though, is a red line that cross will force Russia into an escalatory response. But Russia doesn't actually have that remaining steps on its escalatory ladder, short of declaring a nationwide mobilization, nationwide conscription, rather. And this is, again, Russia's been clear about its nuclear red lines because it, too, realizes this is a regional war of choice, not an existential crisis that would warrant crossing the actual nuclear red line. But here's the thing, guys. They can't both be right. The mill bloggers who say these F-16s aren't that big a deal, and the Kremlin who says they're an uncrossable red line. Well, who's right? Well, before we talk about that, if you are looking to enhance your own efforts, you may not need to rely on Western-provided munitions and aircraft. You may just need a little more caffeine. You should check out Strike Gum. Inspired by my time in Afghanistan, when in order to get caffeine on combat patrols, I had to pop these military-issue energy drinks. If you've never had a military-issue energy drink in 112-degree Afghan high desert heat, you haven't really been traumatized. Now, once you have that memory seared in your brain like I did, I was committed to creating something better. That's why I worked with a manufacturer right here in the USA to produce Strike Gum. It's got zero sugar, 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece, and 100 milligrams of alpha GPC. That means that it's got all the caffeine of an energy drink, none of the sugar, plus further cognitive clarity with that alpha GPC. It's available on strikegum.com. That's where you can get your military discounts, your first responder discounts, your new customer discounts. Or you can go on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com and search Strike Gum. We've got 1, 5, and 15 packs, right? The more you get, the better a deal it is. You guys know how this stuff works. And a huge thank you to all you guys that have supported us. You guys know that we go the extra mile at Strike Gum, right? It matters that we made, we're manufacturing in the USA. Yeah, it's a little more expensive, but you know what? We don't need to enrich China. And yeah, it's a little more expensive to use natural caffeine, but I think those quality ingredients make a difference. And I see it in your guys' reviews. You really appreciate it. You're out here going to bat for us, especially on those Amazon reviews. That makes a huge difference and tells Amazon customers that we are the real deal, not the foreign-made, dehydrated, fake caffeine nonsense that you see on the platform. Okay, let's talk about the F-16s and how Ukraine can use them. Who's right? Well, the answer is probably the mill bloggers. Why? Because F-16s have they are a fighter jet designed in the 70s. And they were designed before you had any kind of man pads, or air defense systems were a little less pervasive and a little less sophisticated. That means that F-16s are pretty easily targeted by Russian air defenses. In fact, again, the Russians have had a long time to develop, the Soviets really had a long time to develop countermeasures to F-16 airframes. And what that means is that in order for the F-16s to really provide like close air support, it means that the Ukrainians are going to have to figure out how to take out Russian air defenses. And that is a pretty tough That's a pretty tough order. F-16s are going to be a magnet for Russian air defenses and, of course, Russian combat aircraft. And that means that Kiev needs to take out advanced Russian air defense systems. And it's been pulling out all the stops, targeting air defense systems from Crimea to the Donbas. But it still is tough for Ukraine to clear those out entirely. Remember, it only takes one to take out these F-16s. And while they have a lot of air defenses, right, flares and chaff and all sorts of other stuff, it's still not the same as being an actual stealth aircraft that's really hard for those air defenses to target and engage. And that is fundamentally the problem that Ukraine has to solve, is that these aircraft can't own the skies if there's air defenses that are active. And it's not clear, given Russia's advantage in manpower and in some ways advantage in equipment, that without taking out basically every single air defense system, that the F-16s will be able to operate. And even if they did, right, Ukraine would have to keep its air defenses up and running against Russian efforts to take them out, and eliminate Russian air defenses in order to truly own the skies. Now, it's not impossible, but it's a real tall order for Ukraine. But as you guys know, if it can be done, owning the skies can really be decisive in a battlefield. You might remember in the invasion of Afghanistan, the U.S. backed the Northern Alliance, a sort of ragtag anti-Taliban rebel group. And once we gave them air power and a small number of special operators who were able to guide those aircraft onto target, the Taliban were just simply crushed. So that, again, difficult, but not impossible for Ukraine to achieve. Anyway, guys, that's all I had for you. A huge thank you to our Colonel tier members. If you want access to uncensored combat footage and support the channel, keep me independent, you can go to combatvetnews.com and join the illustrious Colonel tier members like James Jerling, Steve Moran, Doug Beck, Alan Knudsen, Bastian Hemmerling, Yanko Georgiev, as well as all the Lieutenant tier members. Get access to those twice a week uncensored combat videos, the Q&As with me, and, of course, the shout-outs here at the end of videos. Check the link in the description. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.